right, so welcome to the Octavia project update. I'm Adam Harwell. I'm the PTL now for the train cycle. I've got with me Carlos here, who is one of our core contributors, and Michael, who was the PTL for, I think, the last 3 years.
3 years, yeah.
So, and continues to be a core contributor. I'm from Verizon. They're both at Red Hat now. So, I'm going to pass this over to Michael to start off.
Yeah, very recently Red Hat. So in case you don't know much about Octavia, we'll do a quick introduction. Octavia is a scalable load balancing solution for OpenStack. So we provide the API layer and a reference driver and a framework for other third-party drivers to integrate. We started during the Juno release. That's when the team formed and we started designing and building out this service. We released in Liberty. Our first release was in Liberty. In Stein, we had 88 contributors from 29 companies, so pretty consistent for the last few releases. And in case you weren't aware, we moved out of Neutron. We're no longer a Neutron project. We're a top-level OpenStack project now. So we're separate from Neutron governance. So talking a little bit about what we accomplished in Stein. It was actually a pretty good release. We've got some pretty major features. So starting off at the top is Octavia Flavors. This is a framework that allows operators to define custom flavors that people can select when they're building a load balancer. And a custom flavor is basically a collection of configuration settings that are predefined for the users. So for example, in the Octavia reference driver, we support saying if it's a standby or active standby HA load balancer, or if you want to deploy just a single instance load balancer. You can also specify which Nova flavor you want to use for your M4 VMs. So if you want to have maybe a platinum server that's a couple cores, a silver or a bronze level flavor that you offer your customers that have different tiers of performance, you can now do that. The other thing that's really nice about flavors is all the capabilities that you define in those are provided by the driver. So the third-party drivers can expose some of their custom and proprietary features to the operators and let them make that available to their users if they have some of those they want to expose. Next up on the list is TLS client authentication. This allows you to request a certificate, an X509 certificate from your users when they connect to the VIP. So you can authenticate your users when they connect to the load balancer. When they do that, we also have header insertions. So your backend servers can see what information was provided in that certificate that was validated. We've also added a few lines down here, L7 rules. So you can do really interesting things by looking at your distinguished name field in the certificate and say, oh, they're from marketing. We're going to redirect them to the marketing portal. Or they're from finance. We'll redirect them to a finance portal based on the certificate they presented when they connected to the VIP. So pretty rich feature set for client authentication. Next up, along the same lines, back-end re-encryption. This is a feature people have been asking for. So historically, we've been able to do TLS to the VIP, to the front end, but from the load balancer to the back ends, we were unencrypted protocols only. Now in Stein, we can do TLS for HTTP, TCP, whatever, to the back-end servers as well. And this also supports client authentication. So your backend members can authenticate your load balancer connecting if you want to do that. I already kind of mentioned the L7 rules and how that works. Additionally, tags. This is different than flavors. Tags is just an arbitrary set of strings that users can add to their load balancer resources. So for example, your load balancer object and your listener object, you may want to tag those with an ID that maybe an automation tool will know and can explore and find resources that it previously created to either delete or update. So when you do a list operation on the API, you can do a rich feature set of tags to pull out just the objects that are tagged with your strings. We'll talk more about this tomorrow at the features drill down. We created Octavia lib. This is spinning out some code from Octavia to make it easier for our third-party driver developers to integrate with Octavia. So when they're creating their driver that'll plug into Octavia, they'll import from Octavia lib. It provides all the constants, the data models, and the API methods that they can use to send back stats and statistics and that sort of thing. So it makes it a lot easier for the driver developers. L7 policy redirects. Before, we only supported, I think it was 302 for redirects. This allows you to customize your redirect status codes. You can do a 301, permanent move, all those things. New L7 policy redirect prefix. This allows you to define an L7 policy that you can change the protocol and the host name, but not have to modify or reproduce the rest of the URL path in an L7 policy. So if they have a deep URL that was maybe HTTP and you want to redirect them with an L7 policy to an HTTPS server, you can now do that and it'll preserve that deep URL. And finally, for anybody that's doing auditing on their APIs, we now support the CADF standard, which is an API audit logging standard for cloud infrastructure. So Train, I'll hand that off to Adam.
All right, so for Train, we've got a number of features planned, and there's a note at the bottom. You'll notice these are not 100% guaranteed yet. We're doing most of our planning a little bit later this week at the PTG, so for anybody who's interested in giving opinions on our prioritization, definitely join us there if you can. But for the meantime, the things that we're aiming for primarily, the Neutron-LBaas retirement has been a long time coming. It's going to be happening this cycle. Actually, Carlos will be talking a little bit more about that in a minute. Log offloading, so this is for both the admin side logs, so it's easier to debug what's happening with our agent on the Amphora, but also to allow user side logging, so for user flows, they can see exactly what's happening, which probably will help cut down on a lot of support issues. I know we've had issues with that in the past, so you can, hopefully you'll be able to give users access to their own logs. Access control list for the VIP, so it's a lot of people have asked for this, basically allowing you to add an access control list to the front end of the load balancer so you can do your own, basically poor man's firewalling. So this is probably going to be coming in Train, as well as flow resumption. So we use task flow internally, and right now, if you kill any of the processes that are on the Octavia control plane, there's no resumption for that, so they're just dead in the water. So hopefully by the end of this cycle, we'll have it set up so that those will pick back up when the services are restarted, and that would be using job board. And beyond Train, things on our more long-term roadmap, and again, this is up for some debate, so we could pull some of these in if we can, especially if we can get contributors willing to sign up for some of this. One is active-active. We've had that, I know, for quite a long time on our to-do list. There was a lot of good contributions that came in over the last cycle or two, but none of that really landed yet. And I know we've lost some of those contributors. So we're trying to get that up and running. But again, any contributors who think that they could help tackle that, definitely welcome. We want to improve our cipher and protocol support for TLS. So right now, operators can specify that globally by editing their templates on the back end, but that applies to all load balancers and it doesn't give the users any real fine-grained control. We want to be able to give users the ability to specify protocol and cipher that they're willing to use on the API side. Health monitor content checking, so we want to allow for things like body regex that are supported by a lot of other load balancers, so that you can do a little bit more rich health monitor or health checking for your members. And we want to add a couple more protocols for that. So things like checking the status of a SQL cluster, or gRPC, I think, was on our list as well. Things that we want to add. Also support for compression offloading, so gzip or whatever the new hotness is right now. We can offload that to the load balancer, so being able to just toggle that on would be nice. Container support is another one that's been a long time coming. It's sort of working now, but there's still a lot of work to go to get it really production ready. So that's still kind of on our list. That's also one that if we could get somebody who's interested in working on it, we could accelerate that a lot. Notification support using Oslo notifications so that you can consume load balancing events via standard OpenStack mechanisms. HTTP2 support is mostly supported in HA proxy as of 1.9. So we use 1.8 right now, which only really supports it on the front end. 1.9 will support it on the back end. It'll be fully supported by 2.0. So that's kind of, we're waiting for that to sort of work itself out, and then we'll be able to support that. And anything that anyone can think of that they're looking for, we definitely love to hear your opinions on what some of our next features should be. So give us that feedback. I think Carlos may also talk a little bit about how to do that later. But if anyone's here for the rest of the week for the PTG, definitely stop by our room and give us a shout. So I'm going to turn it over to Carlos.
So Neutron-LBaas, the project was deprecated in Queen cycle, and we said that we would go to retire it in September or U cycle, so that's going to be September. So in train, we are going to completely remove the code. So in master, there is a process to retire a project in OpenStack. So you can expect that in the master branch, you will only get like a README file saying it's gone, the project. The stable branches are still there, but you cannot submit patches to Gerrit, to merge, so it will be completely dead. And then we will also go delete the V1 API in support also in Octavia, all the Tempest jobs that we have, so you can expect that. So if you haven't moved off from Neutron-LBaas to Octavia, do it soon. Yeah, real soon. So we have a wiki page where you can see frequent asked questions. You can see like our recommendations on how to move off from Neutron-LBaas to Octavia. We also have some documented, and we also test in our gates like different processes to migrate or redirect traffic from Neutron-LBaas API to Octavia. So we have the pass-through proxy driver. We also have the layer 7 policies redirect. So you put some layer 7 policies in front, and then it will just send the requests to Octavia API. Yeah, then it was in last summit in Berlin. We also gave a talk about this, so you can check it to see like more in deep how you can leverage all these processes to migrate. Cross-project work, we do some, of course. So we are still investigating ways to containerize our Amphora. Michael actually did the LXD-based Amphora proof of concept, so it's there, the code, but it's not going to merge, I guess. Yeah, we had to switch off all the security features there, so it's really proof of concept. Then there is also some potential Neutron firewall as a service integration for a more flexible load balancer port security isolation. Working with Keystone team now to work on to use the default RBAC roles, and also some discussions that we have with Neutron team to leverage Rio CAN for active-active, for example. How to give feedback. So we have an OpenStack channel on IRC, OpenStack-LBaas. Please join. We have our meetings, weekly meetings on Wednesdays at 4 p.m. UTC. And use the Octavia tag on your emails on the subject if you send emails to the OpenStack discuss mailing list. We also track bugs and RFEs on the storyboard openstack.org. We are looking for codes for developers and code reviewers right now. There's a lot to be done. Bug fixing, this open flow development for active-active, for example, API feature enhancements, Tempest tests more. So we don't test everything right now. We do test a lot, but like recent features we do not support or we do not test yet there in Tempest. And also web dashboard. So we have been adding a lot of features to OpenStack and to the client, but the dashboard sometimes is with feature parity. And of course, that we would love to work with load balancer vendors. Since Rocky, we have the providers framework. So if there are load balancers vendors out there, please join, and we can help you. If you need any help with testing, I don't know, just reach out. We have coming up sessions, one today and the other one tomorrow. So today we have project onboarding for new people that would like to know more about Octavia. And the second one is tomorrow for new features deep dive. So these features that Michael just presented will go more in deep there. Yeah, thank you. Any questions?
Can you explain a little bit about the active-active and the main challenges you guys are seeing of getting that to work?
People. So we have a proof of concept active-active code base that was contributed by a team from a company a couple cycles ago. That it does work, but it needs some polish and cleanup to get it into a merged state. We also have the start of a layer 3 based active-active solution that was also started by another company that got into it, did specs, started the code, and also had to leave developing OpenStack. So really it's about people more than technology challenges at this point. Yeah, we have specs for both active-active solutions and the overall active-active framework. There is code posted. It's just we need people that can spin cycles on it. Any other questions? Great. Thank you.